Okay, look, these two series seem to be very different at first. They have completely different genres, completely different mediums, and came out in completely different eras, which would make you think that there's no similarities between them. But these two franchises are more than the sum of their parts. Several different components go into making them, some more than others in fact. And the main component that takes priority is stakes. Stakes is the beating heart of these franchises, and from here, we can start to see how they are similar. Both series are very good at manipulating their stakes, allowing them to raise it at will. And to understand how and why, it will be kind of a process. In this video, I will be comparing both series and demonstrating how they manipulate their stakes. And not to spoil anything, but it does boil down to two secret ingredients. As I said, there are two frameworks these stories use to be as good as they are. But before we get into it, it would be good to elaborate on both, beginning with Blue Lock. Imagine, if you will, that you're Isagi Yoichi, a teenage football player who is currently better than everyone else in your high school team, to the point where they are keeping you from reaching your full potential. You feel paralyzed by the fact that you're stuck in a mediocre team and will probably never be able to get as far as you want to in the sport. But then something strange happens. A letter in the mail comes to you, inviting you to a program named Blue Lock. Once you get there, you are informed of what Blue Lock is. It is a program where they take the most promising teenage football players and put them through grueling challenges, with the people who can't keep up being removed from the program and banned from playing the sport ever again. But if you actually pass all the challenges, you will be given the opportunity to play on the national Japanese team and play on an international scale. Everyone else in the room is confused and scared to accept. But Isagi, he jumps on the opportunity immediately. This is the basic premise of the show. Basically, Squid Game meets soccer, where our protagonist is put through hell and back in the program to achieve his dreams. And then there is Danganronpa, a Japanese video game with one of the most intriguing, or should I say bizarre premise and plots I have ever seen. Let me set the scene. You are Makoto Naegi. You have just been accepted into Hope's Peak Academy, where only the best of the best go to study, with each student becoming an expert in one field, which can range from the ultimate gang leader to the ultimate fanfic writer. But you're not that special. In fact, you're quite average, with the only reason why you're even attending this school in the first place being caused by a raffle you won, making you the ultimate lucky student. Obviously, you're scared. You have no clue how this new school year is going to go, especially with all your way better peers. But you're still willing to try, and with a heavy heart, you make your way into the school. Or so you think. You wake up in the middle of a classroom, all by yourself. There are cameras watching you, and the windows are bolted shut. You make your way to the entrance with many other students you don't recognize waiting for you, all of them being your gifted peers. After some time, you all make your way to the gym, where you find a talking bear. But the madness doesn't end there. This bear announces that you are still in Hope's Peak Academy. But you are not allowed to leave, and the only way to escape is to murder all the other students, meaning only one person is leaving alive. This is the premise of Danganronpa. Well, the first one at least. And from here, I hope you can see how Blue Lock and Danganronpa are able to produce their stakes. However, it's more than that. A lot of the tension we see in both franchises come from two secret ingredients. Let's begin with the first secret ingredient, which is limitations. And by that I mean the many rules in which the players need to abide by. A perfect example can be found in the second half of Blue Lock. You see, in the first half of Blue Lock, Isagi was given a team to play with, and through many battles they were actually able to connect deeply. However, in the second half, the rules change. His current team is dissolved and he now needs to make his own 3-man squad. Once his team is formed, he then needs to battle other teams with an equal amount of players, with every victory allowing them to choose one other member from the losing team to join his. Once he has assembled a team of 5 players, he and his teammates can ascend to the next section. However, if they lose, the other team can pick one of their own, and if they experience a losing streak and are down to 2 players, the one that isn't chosen from the pair loses and has to go home. From there, I hope you can see how this system can explode into an intricate web of strategies. The team needs to consider who they fight and whether or not they can win. Determine the strength of every individual player, knowing that the more they win, the harder the next fight is going to be. Moreover, losses are more catastrophic than ever. Not only because you are one more loss away from having your dream crushed forever, but because usually the other winning team would pick the best player from the losing team, leaving the rest scrambling to figure out how to win without their best player. But more importantly, these new rules forced players on the team to work together so they can get the best out of each other. Through limitations, we have not only been able to raise the stakes, but also create a more interesting narrative mental game, and allow the players to interact in a brand new and profound way. Now compare and contrast with Danganronpa. As I said, it is a dev game, but there is more complex rules in place to raise the stakes, mainly through its trial system. If there is a murder, the other students are given the chance to figure out who did it. The other students are allowed some time to collect clues from the crime scene and are given time to speak to others. This allows them to create a clear image of what happened during the time of the murder. And then there is a trial, where all the students come together to compile their evidence, and with all the information they collected, try to deduce the murderer among them. If the students are able to accurately determine who the murderer is, the killer is then removed from the group, and by that I mean they are killed. However, if they accuse the wrong person, everyone dies except for the actual killer, who then gets to walk away and leave the school. These simple constraints make the game far more exciting. During the trials, the stakes are as high as ever, because if you get it wrong, you die. Moreover, the simple existence of the trials makes the killers feel the need to make their crimes as convoluted as possible. All this in the hopes to confuse the others and get them on the wrong track, which, as you can imagine, makes the actual mystery of the murders complex and exciting. Now that we've established the first ingredient, we can now speak on the second one, connections. What I mean by that is the emotional connections that characters make amongst themselves and the audience. What makes these series so interesting in the first place is not just the fun rules, but also the human lives that are at stake. These teenagers are pushed to the brink of their abilities, and under these circumstances, they are at their most emotionally vulnerable state. To better understand this, look no further than the Blue Lock character of Baro. When we first meet him, Baro was always the best. No other player has been able to keep up with him on the field. This has led him to not only believe he is the best, but to also only rely on himself during a game, seeing his own allies as nothing more than pawns for him to command. And he does very well in the first half of Blue Lock, but not in the second. On his makeshift team, he starts to lose regularly, and when he's in a game of 2, he loses against another team he used to look down upon, and gets picked to join their team due to his skill. He almost barely evaded elimination and only survived because he was better than his previous teammate. At this point, he still believes he's better than the rest, but when he and his new teammates began a new match, he realizes he was being outclassed not only by his enemies, but also his new teammates. For the first time in his life, he feels left behind, and this feeling hits harder than most. His entire life is football. Not only that, but it's all he's ever known, and all he's ever been good at. If he's no longer the king of football, then he's nothing. Moreover, if he is left behind, he's going to lose and never be able to play again. He will be forced to watch as the people he looked down on live his dream, and he simply could not let that happen. So in that moment, he was able to tap into a potential he didn't know he had, and was able to get the victory for his team. What makes this moment more poignant is how the general stakes were tied to Baro's emotional state, allowing him to go beyond. This moment is just one of many others within Blue Lock. But this moment is a great example of how this show is able to use its emotional connections to perfection. Now let's turn our attention to Danganronpa and how it handles it. So I was going to include a specific character arc from the game in this section, but unlike Baro, which is a small moment for a side character, almost all significant character moments in Danganronpa are pivotal points in the story. The last thing I would want would be to spoil anyone who would be interested in playing the game for themselves. So instead, I will discuss a specific game mechanic that utilizes emotional connections. That mechanic being free time. Free time are moments in between story events where you get to chat with other students. These moments allow the player to become attached to the others. This is mainly done through learning their backstories and getting to spend time together. And in the grand scheme of things, this isn't earth-shattering. But what makes these events so impactful is when these moments of attachment are cut short by the overwhelming reality of the situation, as many of the students you become attached to are either murdered or become murderers. The emotional bonds you forge with them only make their deaths and betrayals hurt a lot more in the end. And throughout the game, there is this lingering understanding that this is inevitable. As much as you laugh and play with these characters, you know that only one person can leave this place alive, which adds a sense of tragedy to the entire experience. And there you have it. Through the secret ingredients of limitations and connections, both of these franchises are able to make their stories as good as they are. This was just a short introduction to both of these series. But if there is one thing I hope you get from this video, is that both of these franchises are, like I said earlier, more than just the sum of their parts. Blue Lock is not just intense soccer, and Danganronpa is not just a death game. At their core, these series are about people, their wills, desires, and what they make you do in your most vulnerable moments. And yes, that's kind of grim, but if you look past all the nastiness, I hope you can see all the humanity that comes with it. And I don't know, I think that's kind of beautiful. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm a YouTuber, you're a viewer. I did the YouTube thing, so you do the viewer thing. Like, comment, subscribe. I highly recommend you go check out those series if you're interested. And if you like this dissection, you can go check out my previous dissection on why Sonic isn't an eco-terrorist. But yeah, bye.